under the tree on the left back there. If anybody wants to ask the candidates a question and does not want to ask it personally, you can write your question on a slip of paper, bring it up to me, and I will ask it on your behalf. We've got quite a number of questions up here already. What we're going to do is give each of the candidates 5 minutes for opening remarks. Then we'll take questions, ask all the questions that I have, all the questions that the audience has. Then we'll give each of the candidates 3 minutes for closing remarks. We're going to go in the order that the candidates' names appear on the ballot. I don't know if any of you have already voted or if you've seen the ballot yet, but we'll start with district judge, then the district attorney, county attorney, sheriff, tax assessor collector, and county commissioner. Ronnie Reynolds is here. He's running for constable for precinct 2, but he came up to me a few minutes ago and very graciously said, in the interest of time tonight, since I'm running unopposed, I won't take up any of the audience's time. But he's here if you have questions for him. Ronnie, where are you? Right back there. If you have questions for Ronnie, feel free to ask him questions. Okay, can everybody hear? Now that I'm through talking, can everybody hear? We'll start off with Jack McGoy, who is running for district judge in the 97th Judicial District.
I'll do a variation of what Ronnie is going to do since I'm unopposed. I only have a few things to say. First of all, thank you for inviting me tonight. I appreciate the invitation anytime to come out and talk to folks, answer your questions if you have any questions. Can you hear me? Can you hear very well? I'm talking loud enough. Can you hear me better now? Thank you. No, I was going to say thank you very much for the invitation. I appreciate any time being invited out to something like this, having a chance to speak to you. The first time I guess I went to one of these, Charlie's grandmother was emceeing it. I never come to Forestburg what I think of Cleo. And the younger candidates that never had a chance to know Cleo, I pity them. I feel sorry for her. So she was a great lady. All I can say is this: I'm unopposed this year. It was an honor for me to be elected as district judge. It was the greatest honor of my life. I tried to uphold the trust put into me by the public every time I take the bench, and I intend to continue doing that. So I thank you again. If you have any questions afterward, I give my time to the rest of the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next, we'll have the candidates for district attorney, Casey Polhemus and Paige Williams.
Good evening. I'm glad y'all came out on a Saturday night. My name is Casey Polhemus, and I'm one of your Republican candidates for district attorney. I moved here in 2013 to become a prosecutor. I started working for the Montague County District Attorney's Office, and I moved to Bowie, and I've made Bowie my home. I'm involved in several volunteer organizations in Bowie and also in Montague County, including the Lions Club. Somehow I got roped into being the adult treasurer for Bowie 4-H. I'm also a member of the Junior MA Club, Grits Club, which is a county club, and various other organizations. But what I really came to talk to y'all about tonight is why I believe you should vote for me as your next district attorney. I think Micah chapter 6, verse 8 sums it up nicely. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Folks, I believe that justice in this county has lost some of its meaning. We have very many cases that involve violent offenders in our district that have been given very weak plea bargains. I Now, I understand that plea bargaining is a part of the system, and it's a part of what moves the docket. But these violent offenders need to be tried. I believe the district attorney's job, one of the most important components of a district attorney's job, is to allow you as the citizens to hand down guilty verdicts and tough sentences. You are the ones that get to send a message to these offenders. You get to tell them, not in our town. We will not tolerate these crimes. And I believe that as the district attorney, that you have to do that. You have to take these cases to trial. Many of you have seen my campaign materials, and many of you have seen some of the facts that I have put out before the public on some of these cases that I believe should have been tried. Folks, this is public record. Everything that I put in my campaign materials came from either a newspaper article, an indictment, or a judgment. These are documents that all of y'all have access to. I didn't have any special access to this information as a former prosecutor, and the last time I checked, it's not unethical to give the public the facts of these cases so you can make your own informed decisions. What does it mean for a district attorney to love mercy? Well, like I said, there's a place for plea bargaining in these cases. Some of these defendants earn probation. They show us that they can become contributing members of society. In those cases, probation is absolutely appropriate. If they can successfully complete rehab, if they can go out and get a job, then we want to give them that opportunity. What I'm talking about are these violent offenders. Those are the cases that must be tried. Those are the crooks that need to be put in jail. Finally, I believe a district attorney must have humility. This job is a very important job in the county. It's a very prominent position in the county. There are very many elected officials that the DA works with on a daily basis. County judges, commissioners, district judges, all kinds of folks. These people have been elected by y'all. That position demands respect. And as a district attorney, you must maintain a certain level of professionalism. I want to continue to build on the relationships that I have with law enforcement already. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm married to a Wise County deputy, and because of that relationship, I have become a part of the Blue family. I have ties to law enforcement that allow me to connect with those folks and work with them as a team to make sure that we fight crime together. I intend to build on those relationships if elected to make the district a safer place for all of y'all to live. I want to thank you again for coming out. Saturday night is a night to go eat catfish in Greenwood and do other things, but this is great that y'all are interested in local politics, and I'm honored that you've all come tonight to listen to the candidates give their speeches. I asked for your vote. Early voting has already started. There's another week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I ask for your vote on the primary March 1st. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paige Williams, and I am your elected district attorney. I have been honored, and it has been a privilege to serve you in this term. I am asking for your vote for my re-election so that I can continue the work I began. I am an Oconee girl. I've lived there more than half of my life. I came back to raise my children with the same value system that I was raised with. And so far, I think my husband and I have done a pretty good job. We'll have a senior in high school next year. My opponent overlooks the fact that my concerns with her information is that she is misinforming the public and otherwise sullying our judicial system. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of you have seen her last ad. Plea bargains for probation of drug-related crimes, 225. Well, if that was accurate, I would tell you to vote me out of office. But it's not accurate. It is misleading the public. Because the law says if you have no criminal history and you have committed a state jail felony offense related to drugs, I shall give you probation. That is the most important thing that I do, is follow the law. And I have to continue doing that despite my personal feelings. Because let's face it, all of us hate crime. All of us hate sex offenders. Another thing she has misled you about, ladies and gentlemen, that I'd like to spend a little time on, is the 10 dismissals for indecency and sexual abuse of a child case. Again, if it was true, I would tell you to vote me out of office. But that's not true, ladies and gentlemen. I have a continuous sexual assault of a child case. It was dismissed right here, and I have the attached copy from the district clerk's office where I paid for it with my own money, not because of who I was, but because I was a citizen, and it was a document that I could get my hands on. Anybody that wants to look at this will see that this continuous sexual assault of a child case was signed by my opponent. That's her signature on there when she worked for my office. Now, I don't bring that up to embarrass or belittle her, as she has tried to do with me. I bring it up to tell you that she followed the law. And sometimes dismissals are following the law. In that particular case, law enforcement officers had forgotten to tell the parents that a child could be placed under a pseudonym. I had previously indicted it with that child's full name in the indictment. Because it was a material variance, we had to dismiss it and re-indict it with a pseudonym, so that the protection that the state has given to victims of violent crimes started. That is just one example of how she has continued to mislead you. I have not, ladies and gentlemen. I made promises in 2012 of the things that I would do for you. I would clean up the docket. When I started office, there were cases from 2005 sitting on the jury docket. There were people in both the Montague County Jail and the Clay County Jail who had been sitting there for more than 8 years, and their cases had not been tried. Well, both of those individuals took convictions, as they rightfully should have, on a plea bargain. And they went to jail, or actually continued to be in jail. I also promised that I would ramp up the victim services in my office, and I have done that. Both of my victim coordinators are state trained. We stay in contact with our victims, and I would like to point out that I may have misrepresented something as well too, in the interest of fairness. When we talk about victims as prosecutors, we're talking about victims of violent crimes. Those are the ones that we have a statutory obligation under the law to inform of every step of their case. We do that. We bring them in the office. We make sure that they understand where they're at. I believe my office has done an excellent job for you. I believe that I have followed the law, and I will continue doing so. And I ask, again, for your vote. Thank you.
Ladies, I have just a few questions for you, and then we'll take questions from the audience if there are any. First question is, during and immediately after your legal education, who did you clerk for? Either one. It's for both of you.
I became licensed in November of 2004. I went straight into private practice. I practiced in Fort Worth for 3 years, and then I moved back to Nocona and set up shop with my father, Roger Williams, where I learned how to really practice law.
Thank you, Casey. During and immediately after your legal education, who did you clerk for?
During my legal education, I actually worked for a family law attorney in Hearst, where I handled not just family law cases, but also she practiced wills and estates. About 2 years into law school, I figured out that I kind of had a knack for criminal law, and so I left that attorney's office and went to work for a criminal defense attorney named Jim Lane in Fort Worth, where I actually obtained my third-year bar card. I was allowed to practice law under attorney supervision, and he had a germaphobe issue, and so I would go to the jail for him. So I handled most of the jail visits on his clients under Jim. And then I also was able to work on civil service cases for police officers that he represented as part of his office. I also clerked for the writ magistrate for Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney's Office, and that was under Judge Molly Westbrook and Charles Reynolds, who's the writ magistrate in Tarrant County.
Thank you, ladies. Another question. Since you have the ability to sentence a criminal to community service, what community service clubs or organizations are you currently active in? Casey, we'll ask you to go first this time.
As I said in my speech, I'm a member of the Bowie Lions Club and also a member of the Junior Amity Club, which is our focus as the junior club is on child abuse and neglect. We work a lot with Patsy's House. Also a member of Bowie 4-H, and we do a lot of community service projects, local community service projects with our kids. The one that most recently comes to mind was the Bowie Animal Shelter. We took a bunch of stuff for the animals out there. I also volunteer with an organization called Our Father's Children. It's not Montague County affiliated, it's a national organization. And I go every summer and volunteer as a counselor for abused and neglected children through that organization. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you. Paige?
All right, most of the time I'm a soccer mom because I have 3 children in 3 different sports. I will tell you that my service organizations include Rotary of Nocona. I have been a member for 8 years. I have been a past secretary and a past president of that organization. In addition, I am a member of the Grits Club, as is my opponent, and we support Patsy's House in Bowie. I'm a board member of Patsy's House, which is our child advocacy center for those of y'all that don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to remember everything that I do. I cook dinner for Mighty Methodists, which is our youth group. That is one of the services that I do. I encourage my children to go on missions, and I have been on a few myself. I'm sorry, I can't think of any more.
Thank you. Last question that I've been given, and then we'll open up to questions from the audience if there are any. Approximately how many cases have you tried either as a defense counsel or as a prosecutor, and how many have you prepared for other counsel to try? And Paige, will ask you first this time. And I know that you probably have those numbers right at the tips of your tongues.
Absolutely. Well, I've been a licensed attorney for 12 years. If I had to guess, I'm going to say at least 50. As district attorney, we have tried 18 cases in the 3 counties in my first term of office. We're averaging 6 a year. As far as preparing for other attorneys, I was low man on the totem pole straight out of law school, so my bosses in Fort Worth definitely made me prepare all the trials, so I'm going to say 50.
Thank you, Casey.
I sat on 8 felony trials when I worked for the district attorney's office. I've tried 2 cases as a municipal prosecutor with the city of Rome since I left the DA's office. I worked on more than 8 cases when I was at the DA's office. I'm going to safely guess 10 that I either prepared for trial and for one reason or another they were not taken to trial, or assisted another prosecutor in preparing for trial. And then whenever I worked at the law offices, I was a low man on the totem pole as well. I can guess safely probably 25 cases that I would have prepared in some form or fashion for trial under those attorneys.
Thank you, ladies. Are there any questions for candidates for district attorney from anyone in the audience? No? If none, we'll ask each of you to give a closing statement, and Paige, we'll let you give yours first since you were last with your opening statement.
Again, I believe we have done a good job for you. Some of the numbers that you haven't heard tonight that are concrete numbers. The intake in my office in the last 3 years has been 2,013 cases that my staff has had to lay their hands on and look at. The indictments, and you can get this off of any webpage, have been 1,192. We have dealt with that many in our office. It is almost a 60% increase from my predecessors. It's not necessarily because there's more crime, ladies and gentlemen. It is because the commissioners were kind enough to let me have 3 attorneys. I lost the 3rd attorney this last budget season because it was being funded out of my forfeiture account, and I was trying to get it to be a permanent salary position. I have to convince 3 commissioners' courts to approve that. I only got 2. I'll be trying again to get the 3rd attorney back into my office because we do have the volume that is a little scary, but quite manageable. I appreciate y'all being here tonight. If you have any questions for me, I will be available afterwards, and I would appreciate your vote for me, Paige Williams, as your district attorney. Thank you.
Folks, I'm not here to get into a mudslinging competition. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you horrible things about my opponent. That's not what I'm about. But I do believe that the voters deserve facts. And that is what I have brought you. This source, the numbers that are quoted on here are provided to the State of Texas Office of Court Administration. They're reported by the offices that handle those cases. These numbers are accurate. I did not come up with them on my own. I did not alter them in any way. Again, with my other handouts, these cases are quoted from indictments, judgments, and newspaper articles. All public records that you are more than welcome to look up for yourselves and make your own determination. You've been told that the district attorney doesn't have time to try cases. There's too many administrative duties in that office. That's the job of the assistants. You've been told that the defendant drives the train and that if he doesn't want a trial, we don't have to give him one. Folks, one violent offender out on our streets is too many. These cases need to be tried. They must be held accountable for the actions that they've committed in our county. If one child is hurt and that perpetrator gets away with it whenever the DA's office could have done something about it, I'm not saying that that can be done in every case. But following the law, if you can try that case and hold that perpetrator accountable, it must be done. One of the other excuses that I've heard is that DWIs the legs were cut out from under them with this Supreme Court case that cut all blood tests. Folks, I've got it from a former Monte County District Attorney, Tim Cole. We used to try DWIs all the time without blood tests. You have to take the evidence you have to trial. The evidence in a DWI or any intoxication case is going to be your testimony from your police officer and your video if there is one. If we're just going to dump the case because there's no blood test, do we not trust our police officers? Are we not going to allow them to stand up and say, this is what I saw? These are the men and women that are going out on our streets and protecting us every day. And we're going to dump that case just because we don't have a scientific blood test. And we have their testimony that will hold up in a court of law. Folks, these cases must be tried. And as your next district attorney, I am committed to making sure these violent offenders are put where they belong and that y'all are able to send the message, not in our town. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you both for being here. Next up is Clay Riddle for County Attorney. I don't believe he's here. If I'm... Luckily, he's running unopposed. If Mr. Riddle is not here, we'll go to the candidates for County Sheriff, Marshall Thomas and Paul Cunningham, the incumbent. And gentlemen, for your opening statements on the ballot, Mr. Thomas's name is first, so we'll take his opening statement first, followed by Mr. Cunningham.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out to the forum. My name is Marshall Thomas. I'm a candidate for Montague County Sheriff. I grew up over in St. Joe, born and raised in Montague County, graduated from St. Joe High School in 1982. I'm a U.S. Army veteran and also a Cook County College graduate, graduated with a honors with a criminal justice degree. I started out in law enforcement back in 1988 as a reserve for St. Joe Police Department. Also went to jail school under Sheriff Glenn Watley back in 1988, so I had some jailer experience. I went to work in Bowie PD after going to work for St. Joe for a while. I worked for St. Joe for Bowie for about 9 months at the police department. There's several of the former Bowie guys have gone to DPS. I went ahead and applied to DPS. I spent 12 days short of 26 years with the Department of Public Safety. I served as a trooper for several years. 9 of those years, I believe, were in Nocona as a trooper there. I promoted to narcotics stationed in Wichita Falls. I was a narcotics sergeant for 3 years. Honored to have one of my old partners here that worked with me undercover. I served there for 3 years. Most of my cases were Montague County cases. The majority, other than just a handful all over Montague County. Several of them were Forestburg cases. I was a team leader for Region 5 Crisis Negotiation Unit. That's heard of hostage negotiation. I was a team leader for that, for the region. I had 11 people supervised, kept up with the records, the training, the budget, and oftentimes I was the lead negotiator or the secondary, which is coaching the lead investigator. We were 100% on getting our hostages out, 100% on getting our people in crisis out, with anybody getting hurt, including law enforcement or the people that were in crisis. I'm TCO certified law enforcement instructor. I have over 4,500 hours of TCO's training. I've been called on to teach forensic investigation to local agencies as well as Texas Rangers. I've taught in the Advanced Crime Scene School for Texas Rangers. So they have a 3-week Advanced Crime Scene School all the Rangers have to go through. I was one of the instructors. I graduated from the National Forensics Academy, which is a 10-week school. I'm also a bloodstained powder analysis technician. Also have just many hours of training, anything from burglaries to capital murders. Some of my goals are to the Wise Eyes program that started here. It's not working. Otherwise, we'd be getting a whole lot more drugs off the street. We'd be getting stolen stuff back. I notice there's a community watch program here for Forestburg. That's what I want to touch on. I want y'all to be involved. I want you to have confidence to call my office and say, hey, we've got this right here. Here's who it is. Here's the vehicle descriptions. Here's where I think it's at. We think there's a lab here. Be confident that somebody's going to come out and talk to you, or at least take the report, not just say, well, what do you want us to do about it, or not do anything. I want to actually combat drugs in the county. I've heard that the drugs have been eliminated. That's far from true. They're just not being found. There's ways to do that. We have training that can do that. We can bring in other outside sources to train these deputies on the road, and we can make a difference in the drug activity in Montague County. I'm sure you've all heard I'm going to be a sheriff that's out in a patrol car. Doesn't mean 40 hours a week as it's been portrayed in the newspapers and all that. I'm going to be in the office doing my budgets. I'm going to take care of personnel issues, which there shouldn't be a whole lot because other guys in the jail supervise those, and they should be taking care of all the personnel problems. Anything that goes beyond that, if it gets to the sheriff's desk, then there's a problem, and that employee's going to have some problems. I want to be out there as much as I can, not for micromanaging my guys. I've got the experience. I've got 27 years in law enforcement. I can show these guys by example. I'm out here with you. We're looking for drug labs. We're looking for stolen property. And we're meeting and greeting people. We're not out here just driving down the road, looking straight down the road. The deputies need to be waving at you. You're the community. You're the ones they protect. You know, I ask for your vote March 1st.
Can you hear me all right? I guess it's working. My name is Paul Cunningham, and I am your Montague County Sheriff. I was elected a little over 7 years ago by the citizens of Montague County. I have extensive knowledge and experience in investigating burglaries, drugs, thefts, and more importantly, child abuse. I have 34 years in law enforcement. I started out as a deputy sheriff for the Denton County Sheriff's Office in 1978. I went to a little town called South Lake Police Department where I worked a year. It was a small community then. It's kind of grown up since then. After that, I went to Louisville Police Department where I spent 20 years at the city of Louisville. I then transferred over to Wise County. Well, let me back up. I was a bailiff for a year back at Denton County for a judge that was appointed that called me and asked me, because I worked cases where he was a defense attorney. He called and asked me to be his bailiff. After that, I went to Wise County where I was fire marshal for 7 years, and then I came here as your sheriff. Our primary focus is the safety and the well-being of the citizens of Montague County. We have all but eliminated large-scale meth production in the county. Have we done away with all the drugs? Absolutely not. Don't know that we ever will. But we have curtailed the large-scale meth production. I've been involved with the Child Welfare Board in bringing the Montague County Montague Meth Project, not even once, to over 1,000 children in the Montague County School District. My opponent talks about being out working with the deputies, and we've seen what happened 8 years ago when they were out not watching the office. We don't want that to happen again. We have a 101-bed jail that averages 65 to 70 inmates. That jail has passed all 7 years of jail inspections with no deficiency. I've even received praise from the jail commission and their staff on the job we've done. I've reduced the cost of inmate meals and medical by outsourcing these services, whereby it's reduced the cost of the taxpayer. What we do is the inmate meals are brought in twice a day. We've gone from $3.54 to $1.37 on the inmate meals. We've reduced the cost of medical, where we had to bring an ambulance in to transport the inmate from the jail to the hospital. We've cut that step out by having a nurse that's in the jail 5 days a week. They can make they can ride a kite to see the nurse. They get to see the nurse, and she determines they need to see a doctor. Then they're taken to the doctor. He comes into the office, into the jail once a week for medical costs. We have church services, all 6 years that we've been in the jail. We've had a chapel. I'm also involved in the Montague County Child Welfare Board, which a lot of you know is Patsy's house. Patsy's house just houses in that house that actually belongs to the Montague County Child Welfare Board. We also have work programs that the inmates participate in, where they go out with the county commissioner. The commissioner sends one of his employees to jail school. It's a 2-week school. Then he's able to take the inmates out and work them on the roads. So we have 2 programs that I've started in Montague County. Is Wise Eyes, and you've heard it wasn't working. This is only as good as what the citizens make it. If you don't call in the information, if you don't participate in it, I can't do it. I can't go out and make you participate in the Wise Eyes program. This is a citizens program. The other one is reported, and it's part of the Leads Online. It's a program where you can go in and enter your property on the internet, online, and it's secure. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I have about 5 or 6 questions for you. We'll start off with what, in your opinion, as your role as sheriff, is the greatest benefit to the citizens of Montague County?
I believe my greatest benefit is going to be my leadership ability, coupled with the training. Also the fact that I grew up here in Montague County, I have a special place for Montague County. A lot of people want to get out as soon as they get out of high school. I can't wait to get back. It was my training, over 4,500 hours I can pass to these guys. I have connections all over the state, different types of trainers. We can bring those in to train the guys. But more importantly, leadership. If I'm out there with these guys showing that I'm checking out here under a bridge at 1 o'clock in the morning to see if there's any dope trash, guess what they're going to be doing the next few nights? They're going to be checking bridges to see if there's any dope trash. Now we're going to go from that. We're going to teach them you need to be fingerprinting this stuff, you need to be taking pictures, and let's link this stuff to these people. So leadership, coupled with the training and just the fact that I grew up here, this is my home. I want to have the community involved. I want you to have confidence in calling in the sheriff's office and saying, you know, this is what I see. I guarantee you we'll be there.
I believe my greatest asset to the community is that I have been the sheriff for 7 years. I know what it takes to run the office. I know what it takes to keep up with the budget. I know what it takes to run the jail. I have working relations with people in the jail commission. I have working relations with other law enforcement agencies in the area. Cook County, Clay County, Wichita, they're all friends of mine. We work together tremendously, and they will be there in the New York second to help us anytime we need help. We have the Texas Rangers, which my opponent is one of them, that we can call on to help us. And I believe that is our greatest asset.
Gentlemen, this is sort of a 2-part question. For Mr. Thomas, what will you do to help the Forestburg community? And for Mr. Cunningham, what have you done during your tenure to help the Forestburg community?
The biggest help I can have is get with y'all on this neighborhood watch, have you call us in, have confidence in getting a hold of our office. We'll be out here, we're not going to be patrolling in the city of Bowie. Sheriff's office is primarily responsible for rural areas. That means Sunset, Forestburg, Stoneburg, Ringo. It doesn't mean in Bowie, patrolling the parking lot at Walmart. We're going to be out here. You're going to see patrol cars stepped up. Visibility is the main thing. So just see a patrol car driving out here in Forestburg. That's going to decrease a lot of the criminal activity just by the presence of being out here. Right now, I don't think it's a normal patrol. I don't know if you see any cars out here or not. There will be if I'm elected.
And your question, Mr. Cunningham, was what have you done for the Forestburg community during your tenure?
Okay. I would like to remind the Forestburg community that I was the one that got with them and helped set up the neighborhood crime watch. I was the one that helped them get that started, provide the signs for them, provide the information on how to set it up, attended their meetings on setting up the neighborhood watch program. We also have a program now at the sheriff's office that is a list of businesses and known problem spots that our deputies are required to check off a list on patrol. Now, they're not going to do it every night because they don't want to set a pattern. You don't want to set a pattern to where the criminal can tell when and where you're going to be. So you may not see a deputy at the location every night. So I guarantee that they're at least 2 or 3 times a week. We have 7 deputies to cover 938 square miles. You can't do that every night.
The next question I was given, I'm going to try to make it into a cohesive question, but it's regarding meth labs and seizure of meth labs and current training on detecting meth labs. How many meth labs have been seized during the current administration, and what's the current level of training to identify and seize meth labs? And Mr. Cunningham, that's for you.
As far as the number of labs that we've seized, I can't tell you the exact number. I don't try to keep up with that. It's not important. It's important that we investigate every one that's reported. My very first night in the office, we busted the first drug lab. I had been up all day or all night the night before, all day, and was called at 7 o'clock at night. And my chief said, "Sheriff, I'm sorry to bother you, but we got a drug lab." I said, "Don't be sorry to bother me. Let's go get it." And we went and got it. As far as training, I have an investigator in my office who's been in the drug lab school. He's been trained in narcotics. He has extensive training in narcotics. He worked narcotics in Montague County for several years. When I was with Louisville PD, I was assigned to the narcotics unit. I did not work undercover. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you I did. But I did investigate narcotics. I worked with investigators that worked undercover. I was their go-between between the bad guys and the police department. I took control of the evidence and took it to the police department. Thank you.
And Mr. Thomas, is it possible the reason it appears that meth labs have been eliminated is because they are no longer being detected by law enforcement?
Absolutely. When I left here, I was working closely with the farmers losing anhydrous ammonia. They were wondering why they were having so many flat tires. Well, these guys were cutting the front tires so that tank would lean down and they get the last of that anhydrous ammonia out of there. I got out to the panhandle, they wouldn't season any meth labs because they didn't know what to look for. I've been there less than a week and I'm calling narcotics saying, "Get down here because we have a meth lab." I just didn't know that the smells, the traffic, you look at criminal backgrounds, things like that, all coupled together. You know, one thing by itself is not enough, but you get one thing over and over and over, you train your guys what to look for, then these meth labs will start coming out of the woodwork. I used to go out here on 455, there's a couple of bridges. I religiously go out there at night, and I gather up the dope trash, trash runs and things like that. Try to see if I can find any kinds of receipts or anything that would go back to the stores, get videos, see if there's anything with fingerprint. There's just a number of things that can be done. The meth labs are there, they're just hard to find. They call them shake and bakes now. Meth lab never was a big production like it sounds. Back at P2P labs, they were a big room, a big laboratory operation. Nazi meth came in, you could do it on the table. Now, a couple of little containers and it's a meth lab. Whether it's a whole room or one container, one meth lab in Monte County is one meth lab too many. And I say that over and over.
Last question I have, and then we'll go to the audience for audience questions to both candidates, and we'll ask Mr. Cunningham first. What is your greatest need in the sheriff's office to make your office the most efficient it could be?
That's easy. The greatest need is people. Like I said, we have 7 deputies to cover 938 square miles. We have a total of 42 people at the sheriff's office, but 20 of those are required and mandated by the Texas Commission on Jail Standards to be in jail. We can't use those on the street. Our greatest need is deputies, and if we don't have those deputies, we can't make the calls in a timely manner. We can't be out being proactive. We have to be reactive.
What is the greatest need in the sheriff's office to make your office the most efficient it could be?
Well, I agree with my opponent. You can never have too many deputies on the street. I want to bring back a strong reserve program. Whenever I was starting out as a young officer, especially when I came back as a trooper, normally, probably 9 times out of 10, the first guy that's backing me up on a call is a reserve deputy, or reserves from some department. I think we can bring those guys back, little cost to the county, have more guys out there, even if they're just riding with another seasoned officer. That's more eyes on the road, more noses, more hearing, just a whole lot more stuff. But manpower is a commodity that we need. Myself, being out there on the road whenever I can go out, my chief deputy, that gives us 9 people. If you added up 2 more people, it may not be the whole time. I'll be in the office a lot, doing lots of paperwork and things, but to me, it's not an 8-hour day. I'm used to working a lot longer than that. You can ask Mr. Ball up here. But manpower is the most important thing. Myself and chief deputy being out there and starting a strong reserve program, I think will help us tremendously.
Are there questions for either or both candidates from anyone in the audience? Mr. Bailey.
When we started the Forestburg Community Watch, the sheriff was supposed to come down here as a speaker. And he was out chasing somebody up at his place that was scouting out his place for a drug hit. So I know that he follows up. But also, we've tried to catch the people, the deputies who are down here at Forestburg, because they started coming by here to visit them. Every time I'd see one, I'd stop them and thank them. And they tell me that we have 42 signs out now that says Forestburg Community Watch, and here's the sheriff's number. It's not the social number, but one that a lot of people out of town try to dial the social number, they don't get sheriff's officers. So we're still selling numbers. And their point is, if you want to do something about crime, do it yourself. Well, down on North Road, we had a whole garage full of stuff stolen down there. And they did not have up community watch. The guys tell me that the ones have up assigned community watch, they have less. We had one south of town here that stole $40,000 worth of stuff. One deal overnight. Can you tell me, did it make any difference about having up a sign that has the sheriff's number on it and trying to get people from calling?
So, in short, in case anyone couldn't hear, when Sheriff Cunningham came down to start Community Watch, he was chasing somebody who was casing his joint, I believe is how Ron put it. But there are 42 Community Watch signs. People have been robbed that didn't have Community Watch in their yard. Is the Community Watch program still up and going? Or the Community Watch program is still up and going, and it's a valid concern, and it's a good thing to have the number on there for somebody to call if they see something. And I don't know if that was really a question as much as a comment, but thank you, Ron. Any other questions? If there are none, gentlemen, we'll let you make a closing statement, 3 minutes each. Sheriff, we'll start with you, and then Mr. Thomas will have yours.
Thank you. And again, I'd like to thank the Forestburg Service group for inviting us tonight to speak to. The Monte County Sheriff's Office is a business. It's not unlike those in your community. The Sheriff's Office in jail has a third of the county's budget. It has 42 total employees. We have 7 deputies, 2 investigators, chief deputy, and myself. We have 14 jail staff, 7 communications officers, and 2 support staff, and we do have 8 reserve. Of the 42 employees, like I said earlier, 20 of those are required by the Texas Commission on Jail Standards. We have to have those. If we don't have those, they can shut our jail down. We have to have one for every 48 inmates in that jail. So if there's over 48, you have to have 2 on the floor each shift. You have to have a communications officer, which also serves as a control officer. That control officer controls every door in that jail. They determine who comes and who goes. So you can say the sheriff's office and the jail are the largest employer within the county. And that's the largest employer in the county government. It is a business. It does require someone being in the office. It does require somebody working up the grants. It does require somebody watching the budget. It does require 8 hours a day. Thank you.
The Office of Sheriff of Texas was created by the Texas Constitution. First and foremost, the sheriff is a peace officer in the state of Texas, a servitor of the peace. I understand he runs a jail, he has personnel, he has all these employees and stuff. Under leadership, I should be able to delegate qualified leaders to take that responsibility that the sheriff, like I said earlier, by the time he gets to the sheriff's department, to the sheriff's desk, or an employee or a budget problem or something like that, it's already out of control. So, if you want a business, sheriff's office is not a business. I understand you're doing budgets, you're doing personnel issues, you're doing that. The sheriff is about you. You're my family, friends, and neighbors, and I'm going to do my best to protect you. The sheriff's office is about community. You should have confidence to call into the sheriff's office, say, I see a car out here, it's a white car, I think they're doing a drug deal, even to the point of having guns visible during a drug deal, and then somebody tell you, well, we just don't have time to mess with it right now. That's unacceptable in my books. You know, I understand. I'll be in office for 40 hours. I spend, you know, as a ranger, ungodly amount of paperwork. You're out there doing 2 hours investigation. I'm in office typing for 10 hours. I understand that. But the time that I'm not in the office, myself, my chief deputy are going to be out there showing these guys what to look for. And that's all they really need. We got good officers over there. They just don't have the opportunity to get out there and be looking for what, I mean, perceptual vigilance. That means seeing everything, hearing everything. You know, if you're driving around, I want to teach them a simple thing about rolling the window down. Keep your window cracked. That way if you're driving by a house, you hear somebody screaming, hear glass breaking, common sense is stop and let's check it out. Somebody may have fallen and hurt themselves, or somebody may be burglarizing the place. I want to involve the community as much as possible. I want to step up the community watch. I've devoted my entire life to public service. I've got a daughter that's a registered nurse now, and a son who just got out of the Marine Corps, and he's a trooper. So they're following on the footsteps of public servant. And that's what I believe I was put here for. I just ask that you support me and cast your vote for me for your Montague County Sheriff. I guarantee you won't regret it. And I guarantee you'll be seeing me out here. I'll come and have coffee with you. We'll see what the problems are. Thank
you. Is Sid Noel here? She is also running unopposed, so be sure to mark her name on the ballot. Ooh, let's get ready to rumble. Candidates for Commissioner Precinct 1. And if y'all would like to stand up and stretch and get a fresh cup of coffee and another cookie while we get the gentleman up here and get lined up, that'd be great. great to see the camaraderie and the visitation going on, but let's get on with the reason we came here tonight. Everybody go ahead and take your seats. We'll get started with the candidates for County Commissioner Precinct 1. And gentlemen, candidates for Commissioner, I have to tell you, I'm really disappointed that y'all wanted to sit down when the ladies stood up in high heels. For some reason, they think they're going to be here a lot longer than any of the other candidates have been here tonight. I just don't understand. Okay, for County Commissioner Precinct 1, Buck Mosley. Buck, wave in case somebody doesn't know you. Paul Braswell. Roy Darden. Stephen Kirkland. And Tony Van. And I've been given many questions, and I know that you all have many questions as well. We're going to let you each do your opening statement, 5 minutes max, and I will cut you off when the timer goes off, so talk fast. You don't have to use your full 5 minutes either. You might gain points by not talking quite as much. And we will go in the order that I introduced you, as your names are on the ballot. Buck, Paul, Roy, Stephen, and Tony.
That's not ballot order.
We're sitting in ballot order.
We're in ballot order.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
2006 March primary election candidates. Secretary of State, Texas. Oh, well. 2016. So, left to right. Paul, Tony's first. Okay, we'll go that way, and then we'll switch it up after a while and go a different way.
All right. I think most of you know that I'm Tony Van. I was born and raised in Montague. I've lived here for about 34 years, but during the other years, most of the time I was here anyway. My problem with as a candidate, I wanted to run for respect back into the office. That was the main thing. And I wanted to try to run it long enough that everybody had respect to put me in there for another term. So we know what the roads need work. That's the main thing that's got to be done. We got to put more rock on it. Everybody knows that.
Small rock.
Yeah,
Small rock. We need to slope the roads, put a crown in it, and I think most people agree with that. There's no use just, over and over, everybody's probably going to say the same thing. So the main thing I think is, put the respect back in there where it's due. Let's put it in there and manage the money. It's a big key to a commissioner's management. He's got to manage the whole courthouse. And it just doesn't mean precinct 1, that means the whole county. So anything else that's got to be done, I think looking at me, I'm a farm boy. I was a masonry contractor. So I'm going to work with the guys just like the sheriff said. He was going to be out there. I'm going to be out there with them, so anything that gets done, most of the time, I won't be there all the time, but to see that it was done. And I appreciate your vote. I'm not going to take up a lot of time about this.
Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Buck Mosley. I've been in this precinct for 38 years of my 42 years. I've been married to my wife Tanya for almost 18 years. We've got 2 kids. Son Michael, he just turned 16, started driving. My daughter's 15. We're fixing to have to start learning to drive. My family's been in the county and involved in the county for years, 100 years probably. My dad retired from the county after 21 years of service. My grandfather and my uncle worked for the county at various times throughout their lives. I actually had a great-grandfather who was commissioner here in the 20s and 30s. As far as my work experience, I worked about 2 years private construction, building housing development. I know what's going on. Housing developments, farm to market roads, final grade from start to finish, clearing land, all aspects of the job. Worked for Wise County under 2 commissioners for 5 years and worked all kinds of equipment, drove truck, grader, chip spreader. The only thing I didn't run was an oil truck, and I'm glad of that because if you've ever messed with one of those, they are nasty. I worked for this precinct for 4 years under 2 separate commissioners. My duties right now, everything from the main road builder whenever we're doing the search grant, hauling lots of gravel to the roads, to keeping up with the search paperwork, keeping it organized and turned in, trying to help assist another guy we've got working on the FEMA stuff, trying to get our maximum money we can out of FEMA and the disaster. Other things about me is I've been on the school board up here at Forestburg for 6 years, and that's a thankful job. They're really proud of you on that one. Other things I've done is volunteer fire department. Been on it for forever. My dad was on it, and I've been up there running around as a kid for forever, fighting fires and climbing on the trucks while they're working on the trucks and everything else. I'm not a politician, folks. I just know what the job needs, and that's what I want to do, is do the job. Take care of the job, not delegate the responsibilities or the duties of the job. I want to handle the job, and I want to make sure that the roads get taken care of and our money gets managed like it needs to be. I also plan on doing quarterly meetings to inform the citizens, tell them what we're doing, what we're going to do, and give y'all an opportunity to bring up things that you think need to be done, things that can be worked on, things that can be changed. Give me your views, give me your opinions. We may have a complete brainstorm session. That's fine. More heads are better. Other than that, that's pretty much me, and I'd appreciate your vote come March 1st. Thank you.
You hear me? My name is Roy Darden. I live in Bowie, Texas, and I'm running for commissioner of Precinct 1. I'm married to Lisa Darden. Her mom and dad is Harold and Evelyn Held. My parents deceased, Glenn and Nell Darden. We have 4 children, 8 grandchildren. And I never planned on running for county commissioner, and I left the oil field after 30 years back in September of last year. And I came home, and Lisa and I took a vacation. We came back. We had several people call on me to run for commissioner in this precinct. We prayed about it. We thought about it till mid-November, and then I decided God didn't slap me upside the head and tell me to run, so I'll just run. If He wants me there, that's where I'll be. I hope I can bring a lot to you. My oil field experience was a lot of construction, road buildings, building pads and everything. I had to go out around there as a drilling superintendent, make sure that the pads were level, make sure everything was going to hold up to these 140,000-pound trucks coming in. And I always carried the laser transit with me back then. When I got started, I didn't jump out here and start going house to house asking for votes. I got out here on these roads, and I drove every road in this precinct. I got and evaluated these roads. Some of y'all probably seen me out there with a laser transit, wondering what the thunder I was doing out there, but I was checking drainage issues and seeing what it was going to take. The people out here have been phenomenal. Everybody that I've talked to has been great, wonderful, nice people in this community. Some of you I've talked to for 2 minutes, and some of us have sat down and talked for 2 hours on the plans we have. Your roads are in terrible shape, and it's mostly because of the rain, the issues that we've had. But if we don't get in here and start packing these roads, you can keep dumping rock on them. And if you go down here and look at these creeks, you're rocking a lot of creeks. We need a vibrating packer. We need to be packing these roads, come back with a water truck, hit them and pack them again. That'll cut your dust problems down about 2/3. And it'll cut your grading time down too. Because when you get these roads good and smooth and you get a chug hole, don't go out there and grade the whole road. Go out there to the backhoe and fill it and on that packer over it again and fix it. We can cut down on some time there. But as far as the courthouse, what I'm hearing, it takes about 20 hours a week for a commissioner over there to take care of his business, according to the other commissioners I've talked to, not only in this county, but other counties too. And these problems I go out here and see on this road, we got so many culverts stopped up, washing around them, we got brush going out in the road. You know, we just need to finesse a lot of this stuff and clean it up and fix a road one at a time and get them done. We've got the biggest opportunity in the world right now, these grants, to get that taken care of. We do our money right and everything, this precinct here is debt free. It can grow to be the nicest, the best, and the most profitable financially, in good shape, and have plenty of money to fall back on if it's handled right. I've got a plan for all that. We can do that. But the main thing is, we got to get to work. We got to get started, get going. The FEMA money's just now starting to show up, and it's time to get to work. So we can get it going. A lot of this has been done. It took several months to get the FEMA stuff started and straightened out. Nobody's fault. It's just the way it happened to the bureaucratic stuff. So, with that said, I'll quit now because I'm sure we're going to have some questions, and I'll let you other guys talk. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Kirkland. I'm a business owner, full-time Montague County rancher. I'm a volunteer firefighter, actively involved with Meals on Wheels, a graduate, current board member of Leadership Montague County. I grew up in Northwest Arkansas, moved to Texas and finished school at TCU Ranch Management. Married to my wife, Kristen. We have 2 daughters. My wife is from Mississippi. I have Lily and Caitlin. They're 5 and 6 years old. And I know what you're thinking, me from Arkansas, and my wife from Mississippi, and the answer is no, we weren't related prior to marriage. So just want to get that out there. This indoor plumbing in Texas has been wonderful. I'm going to send a telegram to my parents, let them know how nice it is. But right now I'd like to give you a plan and to show you a view into my plan and to fix the roads and the integrity back into Precinct 1. If elected commissioner, one of my first goals will be to implement my volunteer program, which will consist of a select few trained, qualified team members, mostly retired heavy equipment operators. They will be held accountable and covered under our liability insurance, just like a paid employee. My volunteers want to grade roads and mow brush after hours and on the weekends when you see this equipment setting. This will be a greater increase in productivity without adding a bigger burden to the taxpayers. Our budget's about $680,000, not a lot of money to go around. So managing our tax dollars is of the utmost importance, especially if we're going to participate in the grant monies, which Roy referred to. We have an excellent opportunity to fix this precinct right now. I've been in business for 20 years. I have extensive experience in customer service, contract negotiations, managing and designing multi-million-dollar budgets, not only in my own business, but also while employed 5 years with Christ Haven for Children. My team members will be trained and held accountable for their work. No matter if we've been operating equipment for 10 or 20 years, we need to go through training. If a doctor, a physician, has to go through training, our graders, our equipment operators, we can still continue to get our education. We have to do this if we're going to properly maintain our roads, crown our roads, and alleviate our drainage issues. Currently we have 4 rock trucks. I'm going to employ drivers. I'm going to stop contracting this rock out. We're going to haul more rock faster and more efficient. This is going to help with cash flow by leasing late model equipment. All precinct 2, 3, and 4, they do this. We're going to update this equipment as necessary. Most of your lease equipment programs can be done for about $8 an hour on a 3-year lease program. There becomes a point of diminishing returns on our old equipment. It costs more to maintain the old equipment than it does to look into leasing equipment. I prefer to communicate with you over a cell phone, my phone call. I'll also have a barn phone where you can leave a message. It'll be checked by myself and my foreman. I have a Facebook page where I'll post updates of current and future events. But most importantly, I want you to know that your concerns are my concerns. I live out here, I ranch out here, I face the same issues that you faced for the past 3 years. I'm committed to an open door policy to the citizens of Precinct 1. I'll manage the funds available to me with integrity, provide the quality roads that the voters deserve. I'm asking for your vote. I understand I don't have a familiar last name. I know I didn't put out the most campaign signs, and I realize that you want a leader as commissioner. A leader that understands there's more to being a commissioner than just roads. A leader with experience, a leader with values, and a leader with a plan, not only to get our roads back safe again, but to also restore the integrity back to Precinct 1. My name is Stephen Kirkland, and I thank you for your vote.
Good evening. My name is Paul Braswell. I'm a candidate for Montague County Precinct 1 Commissioner. Mary Catherine and I were married 13 years ago. We make our home just south of Forestburg near Seldom Road. I'm a 4th generation Texan and a graduate of Texas Tech University. I have over 30 years of business experience solving problems. I go out to my clients and look at their operations, find where we can be more efficient and make them better businesses. I have used some of that problem-solving experience right here in Montague County. We've been here a while. I'm a conservative rancher and businessman, and I have a recognized history of service to Montague County. I've been doing this for a while. I'm running for commissioner because our roads are in horrible condition. If we could drive up and down our roads, I wouldn't be up here, folks. But the roads in this precinct are so bad and have deteriorated so much in the last 3 years that I see this as my civic duty to come try to get this position so we can get out here and get back to safe roads. Everybody in Precinct 1 deserves a safe, all-weather road that you can drive in a car. Rednecks with Paychecks is a really cool deal up in St. Joe. I don't think y'all ever been. I don't know. I'm sorry? Diamond. I'm sorry. But I don't want to have to buy one of those trucks to have to drive around the precinct, if you know what I mean. We're going to have transparency and accountability in this precinct. I believe that we need to know when we're going to do things. Y'all need to know what we're doing to do and what we've done. And I want to make sure that everybody knows exactly where we spend every penny of your tax dollars. This isn't going to be my barn. This isn't going to be my position. It's not going to be my budget. It's yours. It belongs to every one of you. And you all deserve to have this. Some of the things I've done in my community, when I first moved out to Forestburg, I got involved with the volunteer fire department. They had a little bit of a budget problem. They had a truck that had been out of service a while, didn't have any money to fix it. I raised the money to fix that truck, first 12 hours I got it. I did have an impetus. My neighbor's pasture was on fire and they didn't have a brush truck. So we got that fixed. Working with them over the next 5 years, I wrote and received over $80,000 worth of grants for the volunteer fire department right in Forestburg. During that same 5-year period, and I've seen a lot of you at these fundraisers, We raised over $120,000. And when I left the volunteer fire department as their treasurer, they had over 100 grand in the bank. They had a brand new truck in the barn, and we're headed towards the second truck, so I'm pretty proud of that. Working with TxDOT, I don't know if y'all realize driving between Montague and Cook County, you got shoulders on that road now. I have worked with TxDOT on that, brought over $700,000 worth of improvements to our roads already right here in Montague County. They weren't going to put shoulders on this road from Forestburg to Montague. I called them up, they decided it was a better idea to do it, let the contractor do it. That cost them $500,000, but it really only cost them $35,000. I know how to talk to people, and I know how to get them to do something I want them to do that they need to do. I don't go out there and do it myself out of my pocket. I want to use your taxpayer dollars to fix our roads, not have you have to take care of your own road. I want you to listen to candidates tonight, and perhaps look at the video of other debates we've had or forums we've had. We'd listened a little better 4 years ago, I don't think we'd be where we are now. 3 of the folks up here have said this is a maintenance budget. I've looked at the budget. There's only one budget. It said road and bridge number 1. That's the whole thing. We may get some grant money, we should get some FEMA grant money. But it's not a maintenance budget. It's road and bridge, it's what we're going to have, and it's what we got to work with. I will take that money, all $696,000 of it, and use it efficiently to get our roads in this precinct back to a safe, all-weather surface that we can all drive in the car if we want to, even in Diamond. We're going to fix these roads. My name is Paul Braswell, 5th on the ballot, first in experience. I appreciate you, though. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I've been given a number of questions, and as we've done before, I'll ask those questions, and then we'll come to the audience for questions from the audience for the candidates up here. I told the candidates we've not previously had time limits on the question or the responses that they give, so I've asked them to keep their comments concise and short, but to answer your questions as best they can. If we start getting too wordy, then we'll put a time limit on their responses. First question, the precinct is facing a huge challenge in not only maintaining but repairing many roads in Precinct 1. Do you think there should be a tax increase to help with this project? And I guess it would be acceptable to say, I pass, I don't answer. We'll start in the same order. We'll go in the same order for the first few questions. Do you think there should be a tax increase to help with maintaining and repairing roads in Precinct 1?
No, I don't. This right now, I think that was a question I think everybody should answer is no, because we don't need it at this moment, because they have money to spend yet. Now, futures, who knows? You're all left here. You've lost a lot of businesses in this area. So who knows what's going to be in the future. But today, no, we don't need to increase it.
Do I want to increase taxes? No, I do not. I think we have enough money at the current budget. The problem's going to be is when the mineral evaluations drop off and your tax base drops, then I think you may want a tax increase so that the roads can continue being maintained or improved. So do I want a tax increase? No. Is it a possibility? Absolutely. I'm only one vote if I do get up there. Thank you.
Good question. For Precinct 1, and it being our problem, absolutely not. And I'm going to explain why. You got $7.3 million worth of FEMA money for this precinct to work with. You got $620,000 left of this search grant that if Herman doesn't get it spent, they're going to take it away in July. He's working on it. He's put $88,000 out here on Catholic Cemetery Road. He's holding back $50,000 for Starman and Lazy out here on the repairs on that. that he has to hold back. He's having to wait on some money to come back, and he'll get that road, and he'll keep that money. I've been watching, keeping up with this. There's no reason that we should have to have a tax increase because of this precinct. As a matter of fact, I've got a brochure I put together back here by my sign, and if there's questions get on into it, I'll explain all of it. I'm not going to take on time to do that, but I can show you where in 2 to 3 years, we can have $800,000 worth of extra emergency money in this precinct and these roads fixed. It's just all on how you go about it.
No.
No, I don't think we need a tax increase. I think we need a tax decrease. We've had a 7.6% tax increase in this budget. They raised over $675,000 more than they did last year. They took $600,000 and put it aside. Of course, they probably spent it. They put it in contingency. This is how government takes our goods and services away from us. We have plenty of money in this budget. I want to take, one of the things I will take to the Commissioner's course, we will zero-base budget every department in this county. That's my goal. We need to get down and figure out why we're spending every dollar, not just in precinct 1, but in the county. So I think right now we need about $600,000 tax decrease, and we can move forward from there.
Thank you, gentlemen. A question written and submitted by an audience member. When the county roads are checked out and road conditions reported, how are the roads to be corrected once problems have been noted? When the roads have been checked out and road conditions reported back to you, how are the road conditions to be corrected once problems have been noted?
Well, I believe the first thing, to tell the whole deal, you'd have to know what the problem was. So, you know, if it's a washout, you go out there and you're going to build a temporary something there to keep people from passing through. So then you're going to come out there, probably put a bigger tin horn in if there was one there, it may not have been. Or you just fill it in and go back and crown your road and do your bardages. But every situation, to sit here and tell you, you know, it's going to be a different deal. But you take it in a timely manner. You go do it and look at it the day that you get the report. Number one. Then you go from there and see what you got to have. So every job's going to be a different situation. Just sit and tell every detail about something. But the main thing is, I think you just have to go and look at the situation and come back and fix it.
Can I hear that one more time?
I don't know if I can read it one more time. When the roads have been checked and the conditions reported, how would you correct the problems reported on those roads?
I think you'd have to evaluate them one by one and put them in order and just work off your list. And as new problems are reported, then you evaluate those and evaluate those against the ones already on your list. It's going to be my job to evaluate what's going to be bad, what needs to be fixed, and when it needs to be fixed, and what's worse than another one. So that's pretty much the way it is. Assess the situation, see how bad it is, and if you have problems that are already worse that you're working on, put it on the list so you don't forget about it and it doesn't get lost, and evaluate and take care of the problem as you get to them. Thanks.
Well, every road out here is going to have to be rebuilt. There's not hardly anything out there too great. So, with the FEMA money, all this is going to be done. It's going to be done in a timely manner. In the meantime, when you have problems out there, we're gonna have to get back, run somebody down there with a grader, patch things where everybody can get around. But everybody's road's not gonna get fixed in one day just because this FEMA money's here. And we're not gonna do it with 4 trucks, we're gonna hire trucks, and we got to. You won't haul $7.3 million worth of gravel with 4 trucks. Let me tell you something, we're gonna be here several years and I'm gonna be gone, so I'll be dead. So we're gonna have to have outside stuff, and FEMA's gonna help pay for that. And they also pay us to trim trees, they pay us to clean out bar ditches, 80 cents a foot, they pay us $80 an hour to run that cutter, clean it up. We're getting back our max money, some of it right there. And there's ways to get it back. And we're gonna have to have people pull off, go down and fix things, and come back and go back to work. But in the meantime, we'll always have somebody to run.
Well, as issues come up, you are going to have to evaluate what's priority. But one thing that I would want my employees to do is just common sense. If you have an issue that's called in that's maybe a quarter or half mile down the road, why not grade the road all the way down to the problem and then turn around and grade it on the way back, rather than just road the machine all the way 8 or 10 or 12 miles to grade 10 or 12, 15 yards, and then road it 10 or 12 miles back. So making good use of our equipment, making sure that we do prioritize these issues. Another thing with my volunteer program is we're going to have people that are out helping to rebuild this community. And these volunteers that I mentioned are going to be trained, qualified, capable people. The guys that are coming to me that want to help, that want to volunteer, are people that have been running equipment for 10, 20 years, whether it be through Cook County, BNSF, or Caterpillar, and they're retired. They want something to do. They want to help invest in this community. If you recall Nehemiah, when he had to rebuild the walls, he enlisted the help of the entire community. And they said that it couldn't be done. It got done because the community got involved.
When you have a problem reported in this precinct, what will happen is I'll go out and evaluate it, or my road foreman will. When we find out what the severity of the issue is, it will either be, if it's something that we can put on the regular maintenance schedule, we will do that. We will communicate back to you, though, what our decision is. If it's something we need to address, one of the things I'd like to do is get this bobtail truck, get a load of rock on it, so we can send a backhoe and a truck out. You got to pick the right size repair and the right size resources and assets to apply to the problem. And that's part of my job, quite frankly, is to teach these young men, train them how to come down here, pick the right solution for the problem at hand, apply the right necessary amount of force to fix the problem, and then you move on with the daily business. They may not all get fixed in a time you would like to. Some of those things we're going to say, hey, we're going to fix that, we're going to be out there in 3 weeks maintaining. Is that adequate? But we're going to work with the community to work this out, okay?
Thank you, gentlemen. This is a very pointed question for Stephen Kirkland. And I don't know if this is right or not, but somebody submitted it, so I'm going to ask it. How can you have 20 years business experience if you're only 34 years old?
If you look at a lot of different CEOs throughout their career, they started very early. And you may look at it and say, well, he is young, how do you have 20 years business experience? I started my own businesses, whether it be lawn mowing, or my parents had a retail store, which I managed that. And we trained horses. We've had various types. I've been self-employed since I was basically 14 years old. So in short, that's the answer to the question. Now, have I been on my own for 20 years? No, obviously I spent 6 years of that at my home. But I've been on my own, making my own decisions in my own business for 20 years.
Thank you, sir. Next question, and we'll start with Paul and come back this way and give Tony a break. Do you have a CDL driver's license and can you operate machinery?
CDL, no, I do not have a CDL currently. I don't need one in my current operation. I don't need one in my current business. I will get one as soon as I become your commissioner because I will need to be able to move this equipment around and take care of trucks and haul rock when it needs to be hauled. Running equipment, well, I don't know if you consider a 40-year-old backhoe equipment, but I do. It takes a little bit more time to learn how to run one of those because you have to treat her with a little bit more respect. I couldn't make a living with it because it won't work that hard. But I can do with it what I need to get done. And yes, I have driven other equipment. I don't want to sit here and tell you, bore you with it.
For all the candidates, yes. Do you have a CDL driver's license and can you operate machinery?
I don't have a CDL, and I really, honestly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm going to go get a CDL. If I get hurt out there on a truck, then who's going to run this precinct? If elected commissioner, it's nice to be able to do those things, but it's not necessary. If you're going to have a crew that's trained and held accountable, those guys are going to be taking care of that. You shouldn't have to be out there running a rock truck, running a grader, doing things that require a CDL. Now, do I enjoy doing it? Do I drive my own dump truck without a CDL? Maybe. I'm not saying that I don't. So they said they're not going to be out patrolling. So. I enjoy doing it, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to get a CDL and you're going to see me out there hauling rock. If we don't manage the assets in the courthouse, we're not going to have the money to haul the rock to begin with.
I've had a CDL since I was 18 years old, and I plan on keeping it. And I do plan on being out there working because we need every hand we can get on the ground right now because we're behind, and we can only have 4 employees, 1 road foreman. And I plan on putting some prisoners to work. And if I win this in March, but in April, I hope I'm in school to get a jailer's license because I plan on getting them boys out there. So, and I plan on some other people having that same thing at work here. So we need to put every hand to work that we can get. It doesn't cost us money. There's no reason for it, for let them said. But yes, I can run equipment. I have had equipment, worked on equipment, overhauled equipment, built trucks, drive trucks, backhoes, dozer. I'm not efficient on the maintainer, but I will be. So that's what I do.
Yes, I have a CDL and I've had one for 20 years with a pretty good driving record. As far as equipment goes, yes, I can run any piece of equipment you have. Wore out, new, doesn't matter to me, I can run them all. Thanks.
No, I do not have a CDL, but yes, I have had one. But I'm not going to get them again. I feel like it, if I go out there and run a blade or a backhoe, dozer, or whatever, you know, that's good enough. I put my time in at it, so I'm not going to drive a truck again. I've done all that I wanted. The other thing is, they're right. We need to use those prisoners. Roy knows what we're talking about. Use them, bring them out there and clean these roads up. You can hire 4 drivers and you can get them right now pretty cheap because there's a lot of them looking for work. So you're going to pay them a certain amount anyway, but they are a lot of them out there. And we can hire a few extra. Thank you.
Stephen made reference to employees. One of the questions that we have were, what are your plans for the current precinct employees? We'll start with Paul again.
All the things we can talk about legally, I cannot say anything about the current employees at the barn. However, I can say that anybody who has a job will be evaluated, and we will see what we need to do. There may be changes, I don't know. I don't know who's going to be there on January 1st. We may have a couple retire, we may have somebody decide he wants a job in Decatur, or we may have somebody leave the country. But as far as that's concerned, can't really speak specifically to that, but we'll look at the situation, evaluate what their strengths and weaknesses are, and where they have strengths, I will manage and train them to do the best they can to provide service, community service to us to get our roads back in the right condition so we can drive on them safely.
Even though it pains me dearly, Paul's right to say that we can't comment on the employees. But one thing with employees, it doesn't take a lot of effort to just show up with a good attitude, and that tells a lot about a person. They may not have the most experience operating equipment or driving with their CDL, but if you can show up every day with a good attitude, you can find someone that you can work with. And we'll evaluate whatever staff that we have and when we possibly take over in January 1st and go from there.
Well, I spent the last 12 years working for Devon Energy, and they sent me to New Mexico 3 years ago to build teams, because that's what I was good at. We will have a good crew up here, and it pains me the same way. I'd love to tell you that I'm planning on these boys staying. That's what I'd love to tell you, but I can't legally do that. But I will evaluate everybody, and we will all get out there, and attitude is right. Stephen's right about that. They got a great attitude, and they want to put in there and work and make this thing the best. That's great, because my attitude is, I want Precinct 1 to be the best one out here. I want everybody else to look at us and try to figure out how to catch up. And when they have problems over at their courthouse, we'll be over there, we'll be taking care of them, but I want everybody else to be looking at their budget and going, how come we don't have that much money in emergency? And there's a way to do that, guys. And I've got a brochure over there, I want you to pick it up. It explains it all.
So what I'm getting is we can't say whether they're going to keep or get rid of the employees. So what I'm getting out of it, I might fire myself. That might be the first thing. That might be a good idea. That might work. No, I think there's a pretty good crew there, and I really, like I say, it had to be evaluated, but anybody that wants one will have one as far as I'm concerned. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm like the rest of them. We can't say a whole lot about what we would do one way or the other. I think most people know everybody around, and they know what they got to work with, so there's not a whole lot we can say about it.
Okay, Tony, we'll come back to you for this question. A very specific question about an issue on a very specific road. When and how would you plan to fix Jones Valley Road where the water will run under the road?
Let's see, when was Noah's Ark built?
I was born a few days after that.
Jones Valley Road, it could be raised a whole lot. I don't know if we could ever build exactly that one big enough, get high enough. I've lived around here all my life, and that's a tough question to say how long would it take. All I know is there's some holes over there that does need fixing. We need to widen it some more. There's some big rock over there right now. It needs some littler rock on top of it. It needs packing. But it could be, I think, within 6 or 8 inches, but added to it, it could be passable now pretty good. But there's 2 holes over there. I'm like Roy, I drove every road and I've knocked on a lot of doors trying to get this thing, so it's possible in 6 or 8 inches you could fix that road and fix a couple of holes.
Jones Valley Road probably needs 2 more horns and about 1 foot of rock on it, and probably better ditches on the sides and take the dams that are on the sides of the roads off the side of the road. That'd pretty much take care of it. The one I would really be concerned about is Dry Valley. The low water crossing that washes out and you can't get trailers through, and all that kind of stuff. I think that would be a pretty good concern also. Thank you.
I agree with Buck, just exactly what he said. And this FEMA grant, they've already went out and evaluated these roads. Some of these roads are going to get a foot of rock. I don't know if Jones Valley is one of them or not, but it very well may be. So a lot of things we're going to do according to that and fix them. I went out and talked to the landowners out there at Drive Valley on both sides. You know, I thought about putting 5 3-foot culverts in there. I thought about drilling the bridge. They don't want it. They want a concrete crossing that won't wash out and let it go, which would be the cheapest thing, because they're afraid that the debris and everything comes off of those hills over there is going to plug up these horns, and then we're going to have another problem trying to get all that cleaned up. They'd rather just go through their places. So what I want to do is when we go out there and start fixing stuff, get with our landowners and people that travel down that road. Y'all see what we don't. Y'all know what's going on. We start working on the road. That's when we need to knock on doors. So we're coming out here next week. Is there any main concerns you want to address? And we make sure we get them addressed while we're there, fix it one time, and do our best to fix it for everybody.
The landowners are going to be a great asset to us. They're going to let us know how the water runs. They're the ones that live on the roads. The other thing that we can do is develop a working relationship with some of these TxDOT engineers. We may have an idea of how to do it, but it's not going to take much to actually go to a road engineer and just say, hey, will you come out here and will you look at this with me? Will you give me your opinion? And try to engineer some of these roads to where our dollars will go further. Jones Valley is one of them. The list is endless. We just happen to choose Jones Valley to talk about.
I have developed an anti-gravitational device. We're going to set it underneath the ground and levitate that road. You got to get it's not that you got to get the water on top of the road or off the top. You got to get the water away from the road. Is what you got to do. And it doesn't matter if it takes culverts, where you're going to put the culverts. Sometimes we're going to have to work with all these landowners, and folks, we're going to need your help. These are your roads. And if you want it fixed, we're going to need your help sometimes. Like Roy said, they may not want anything but a good concrete low water crossing. That may be good for some folks, but other folks may not want to go through the dip. We'll have to find the most adequate solution for that. As far as holes in the road, I've noticed that. One of the things, if you drive around enough, and I've driven just about every one of these roads in this precinct, I believe, you're going to find a lot of encroachment where you've got these tin horns washing out underneath the low end of them. And that's causing the shoulder to fall off and get eroded off. And pretty soon, guess what? Your car falls off there. So it starts at the base. Somebody's, and please, culverts, I'm sorry, when you put a culvert in, you put it down where the water's running. You don't set it on top of the road and put more rock around it. You have to dig a hole sometimes. But you got to do it the right way. And do the right way the first time. Because I've only got so much money. If I can't afford to do it right the first time, when am I going to have time to do it right? We've got to stop wasting our time going back on repetitive things. We know every time it rains, we have to go to these 4 places. Why don't we fix one of them this quarter? Then next time it rains, we only have to go to 3 of them. Have a plan and a program to get these things, these problems solved instead of perpetuating them. And the anti-gravitation doesn't exist, I'm sorry.
Two more questions. So what I've done is just ask each of the candidates for commissioner to draw a question. It's been suggested to me tonight to let each of the commissioners ask each other one question. So the numbers that you draw are the numbers in the order that you can turn to one of the other 4 gentlemen up here and ask any one of them a question.